Welcome to Developing the Leader Within podcast, the podcast that brings you leadership insights from the brightest minds shaping our world. Join us as we dive into conversation with trailblazers, innovators, and change makers, spanning every corner of the globe. Get ready to explore new perspectives, gain actionable insights, and become the leader the world needs today. Unleash your potential. Tune into Developing the Leader Within podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Let's embark on this transformative journey together. Developing the Leader Within podcast, leading beyond limits.
Welcome back, everyone. If you haven't subscribed, please do so right now, as it'll help us get our show to others and help us reach our next milestone. Make sure to catch us streaming on Parade Deck, on Roku and Amazon Fire TV, on the Purpose Place Network, and catch our exclusive members-only content Going Deeper Within on the Lions Guide Academy. Today, we are speaking with Pamela Oberg. Pamela is the founder of SeaBlue Strategies. She helps small and mid-sized businesses grow with clarity, purpose, and resilience. She also partners with leadership teams to uncover inefficiencies, realign roles and processes, and build internal leadership capacity so their people, systems, and strategy work in harmony. Pamela, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that welcome.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I'm so happy to get into this particular topic and conversation. And folks, we will be speaking about the AI takeover, and everybody has felt it in one way or another, transforming the future of leadership. But before we get into that conversation, Pamela, tell us a little bit about you.
You know, at the heart of everything I do is a belief that people have to be at the center of any successful organization. And that's both employees and clients, frankly, if you're a service-oriented organization. And that's really been true throughout my, 25 years in corporate leadership, working mainly in technology and education spaces. And of course, I've brought that to the core of my company, SeaBlue Strategies. And as you said, really wanting to partner with those growth mode companies to align people, process, and purpose. And of course, how AI can be used thoughtfully to support and not replace great leadership. And I love this work. It's so exciting to help leaders navigate innovation and the human needs in their organizations.
Well, thank you for the work that you have done and the work that you are doing. I know AI, when we talk about takeover, right, it seems that way, that it's been intrusive into all areas of life. And it is technology, right? So people will cling to the new thing and see how they can partner up with that. And so I love that you mentioned the compliment versus, hey, this might be something that's going to impede in my progress. How can I use this? And so let's start off with, how do you define the AI takeover in the context of leadership? And should we see it as a threat or a tool?
That is a wonderful question, and I'm so glad that we're starting here. And it's an interesting perspective. And what I see isn't so much of an AI takeover, but I think that is the perspective people have. This is a rapid integration, especially with generative AI. There's lots of AI out there, of course, into our business workflows and to our systems. It's just moving so fast. And that pace of change it's creating confusion, it's creating overwhelm, and in many cases, it's creating fear, especially for those leaders who maybe feel unprepared to make informed decisions about AI. It's hard to be an expert in AI. I question most people who say they're an expert in AI because it's just moving so very, very fast. I don't know how you develop expertise that quickly. But here's the thing. There's no credible research yet suggesting that AI can replace human leadership or judgment. And what we are seeing is that AI is becoming an enabler. It's helping us drive productivity, creativity, better decision making, all important concepts for leaders. And we talk a lot in my AI communities and in my professional networks about keeping that human in the loop and how critical that is. And that's a big part of where our leaders need to be. They're the human in the loop with AI acting as a collaborator and an enabler, not a replacement. So when we pose the question, is it a threat or is it a tool? I'm going to argue that it comes down to that leadership mindset. If leaders see AI as a threat, then they risk falling behind. But if they see it as a tool, if they lean in with curiosity, with understanding, try to use AI thoughtfully and wisely, they're going to have an advantage. They're going to be in a more competitive space with their organizations. I think they're going to attract a different kind of employee. And this really matters. I love this question so much, Enrique. This really matters because implementing AI isn't about automating for the sake of automation. It is an opportunity for organizations, for leaders to amplify human capability, not replace human capability. What leaders are going to bring to the table: connection, empathy, creativity, and ethical judgment. Ethics is a big part of this whole thing. So, a focus on building basic AI literacy without the goal of becoming a technical expert, asking great questions, making values-driven decisions. Um, that's really what AI as a core leadership competency is going to be this year. You can't ignore it anymore. That's not a choice. That ship has sailed. But you don't want to use it without clarity or care. So I don't think we need to fear an AI takeover as leaders. I think what we need to worry about is a leadership vacuum, a vacuum where leaders aren't making those thoughtful, human-centered decisions about how, when, and why we use these tools.
And I love that you bring in some qualities that must remain. And it leads to my next question as to what key leadership qualities will remain essential even as AI becomes more integrated into the organizations.
AI is amazing for processing data, generating insights, automating tasks. I even had a conversation with one person recently who used AI to help her decide what to wear to a fancy event, like take a picture of your closet and it tells you what you can wear. Um, but it cannot lead people. It just can't. So as AI becomes more integrated into organizations, into our tools, the human side of leadership is just going to become more and more important. And so there are three timeless qualities that always stand out for me. And I think in a time of leadership of AI, within AI, these are extra critical if that's possible. Empathy, understanding what your employees, your customers, your stakeholders need and feel, especially as AI is changing the way we work. Compassion. So, not just understanding with our empathy, but also acting with care. Organizations are evolving, and we know that compassion builds both trust and psychological safety. And those things are essential during times of change. And that's really what we're seeing right now is this expedited, amplified time of change. And the third timeless quality, which is one of my core values, is authenticity. As AI generates polished but fairly impersonal content, people will value leaders who remain genuine, transparent, and relatable. They don't need their bosses to be the experts at everything. They need to be able to relate and feel that their leaders are relating to them. And so my perspective is that smart leaders, the strongest leaders, are going to bring AI into the conversation with their people and it's not something they're doing to their people. And that mindset is really critical for successful transition and navigating these transitions. And I just want to add one other piece. So beyond those three timeless qualities, which I truly believe those sustain no matter what's going on in our world, but we also need leadership that models adaptability, continuous learning, and amazing ethical judgment. We know AI doesn't do ethical judgment, so humans need to bring that to the table. So AI tools are evolving super fast, and leaders can't have all the answers. But what they can do is demonstrate curiosity, learning agility, and flexibility. The magic of AI is that it can surface options. What it cannot do is make values-based choices. That's where leaders come into all of this, ensuring that the AI use aligns with organizational mission, value, and ethical standards. And just as a quick note, there are still too few organizations that actually have formal AI ethics policies. So leaders really need to step up and fill that gap.
I love that list of qualities and echo it. It is imperative that leaders stick to these things because, as we mentioned when we started, you have to make a choice. Is this a threat in your mind, or is this an asset, a tool in your mind? And once you make that decision, you have to also understand that it will bring implications to the workforce, right? Especially those that you're leading. But for those that say, hey, this is a tool and I'm going to explore some of these things and I'm going to see how this thing's going to help me, my team, my organization go forward into the future. So, in what ways can leaders start preparing their teams today for a future where AI plays a major operational role?
Such an important consideration, and to begin from a place of being mindful. So let me start with this. The worst thing a leader can do right now is pretend to have all the answers about AI or to leave their teams out of this really important conversation. Preparing our teams for an AI integrated future isn't about top-down directives. It's critical that we build shared understanding, trust, and again, that learning culture. And the leaders that do this well will see their teams lean in and resist less because we know change is hard, right? There's a ton of great books out there. There's a ton of great courses out there on how to manage change. Change is challenging. And whatever we can do as leaders to get our teams to lean into that process, we need to focus there. And again, AI is evolving rapidly. So even the experts are learning in real time. So what I encourage is for leaders to model a learning mindset and be able to say to their teams things like, I'm not an AI expert, but I'm committed to learning and to understanding what matters for our work and doing that with you. That's a huge bridge to build for leaders and their teams. And I think simple statements like that really help us build trust and reduce fear. The other perspective that I think sometimes gets forgotten is that the people closest to the work are the ones who are going to know best where AI can help or hurt their processes and their outcomes. And so I think we've all heard about or been in organizations where some of the top made a decision and the people doing the work are like, oh my goodness, that was not well thought out. And so it's critical for our leaders to foster a culture where teams understand leadership's goals, and the goal should not be to eliminate roles, but automate those repetitive tasks, streamline processes, create space for higher level thinking, innovation. We use that word a lot, and I would argue most organizations aren't really making space for that, and growth. And so AI can help all of us do our best work but it can't replace the human value. So what leaders can do to really help their teams in this time of rapid change is create those safe spaces for exploration and input. Really engage the people who are closest to the work and ask them what tasks are time consuming and ripe for automation. Where is your human judgment still critical? Because we want to emphasize that. We want to grow that. And don't forget, hey team, what are some of the risks that you think we might want to anticipate as we go down this path? Employees, teams love to be engaged. They love when leaders really seek them out for their expertise, for their experience, and it's so incredibly valuable. And the reality is more than half of employees want to help shape how AI is used in their work. And so ignoring that is a missed opportunity and it's a risk. If you skip that getting buy-in stage, if you skip that engagement stage, you're simply not going to see the same level of success. I think the other thing to keep in mind, I've spent a lot of my career doing, enterprise software engagements, implementations, selections. This is different. AI is a really democratic tool. You are not limited to a team of highly trained engineers in order to implement AI, in order to use AI. And leaders don't need their teams to become AI engineers. They need basic AI literacy, which should be part of professional development at this stage. And they need opportunities. Leaders need to create opportunities for experimentation, with some guardrails that reflect values and ethics. But at the end of the day, what leaders can do that I think is most critically important is acknowledge AI adoption works best when the people closest to the work get to help shape it. And when our leaders stay open, transparent, and collaborative, then we can build that amazing future together.
Absolutely. And as we discuss things that leaders can do to help the integration of AI and empower their teams, let's flip that coin and talk about the things that maybe leaders are doing or could potentially do to stifle their teams and to create roadblocks. So, what are some common misconceptions leaders have about AI that may hinder their growth or adaptability?
This is such an important talking point for sure. There's just so much noise around AI right now. I had a conversation with some colleagues recently, about an article that had come out, and all of the headlines were so focused on clickbait and generating fear and anxiety. And I think it's dangerous and short-sighted that we're seeing so much of that in the media. And so it's no surprise when we're all overwhelmed with this flood of information about AI, flood of news about AI, much of it framed to generate a particular emotion, not to help us grow understanding. It's no surprise that leaders hold misconceptions that can slow them down or send them in the wrong direction. I see probably four common ones. And the first one is we need to be experts before we can do anything. I think many leaders freeze because they feel the need to be an expert. They want that deep technical expertise or that depth of understanding before they bring AI into their organizations. But leadership's role isn't to master AI, it's to foster that learning culture and to guide that values aligned exploration. So that shift in thinking, I think, is going to be really important. The second misconception I see is that AI will replace whole jobs, so we need to be really careful about using it. And this fear is well founded by, again, a lot of the things that we see in the news that we're hearing about certain organizations. And that leads, I think, that fear of losing one's job, of replacing one's job, of course, is going to lead to resistance or to inaction. I don't want to help them eliminate my job. I'm not going to participate in this. And sure, some tasks will be automated. There are things that AI is going to do faster and more accurately. But most roles can and should evolve and not disappear. And if leaders can focus on helping people adapt and grow, upskilling, participating in these conversations, bringing their knowledge to the table, that will encourage that buy-in, that trust, and be the opposite of fueling fear. Because fear serves no good purpose in the corporate space. It simply doesn't. The third misconception that I see a lot, and this was very trendy like 2 years ago, or like this fail fast mentality, and it's in the AI perspective, it's we need to roll AI out fast to stay competitive. Okay, and AI seems easy to roll out. I'm going to argue that speed without purpose is not strategy. It's chaos. And AI tools that are deployed without defining clear purpose, without framing governance, without ensuring a values alignment to the organization can actually create harm instead of good. And I would go so far as to say trying to do things too quickly can introduce inefficiencies, bias, cultural issues. And by that, I mean work culture. MIT Sloan did a report, I want to say at the end of 2024, that said 70% of AI initiatives fail when they're not aligned to business purpose and culture. So fast is fine if it's thoughtful, but fast without thoughtful is just as dangerous as no adoption at all. And the last one I see a lot is that AI will automatically deliver value once deployed. AI is amazing. It is not plug and play magic. It is not. And if organizations skip process redesign, staff training, developing ethical guidance, AI adoption won't stick and may in fact create poor outcomes. And I think any of us that were in that enterprise software space, we all remember, oh, let's implement SAP, let's implement Salesforce, it'll fix our processes, it'll clean our data. No, it in fact will not. It'll just amplify all the things that you haven't taken the time to take care of. So AI value is earned. It takes intention, it takes training, it takes alignment. So I believe that the leaders who are succeeding with AI and will continue to succeed, they're not chasing the shiny objects and they're not holding back out of fear. They're fostering curiosity, they're engaging their teams, they're building clarity, and the way they're implementing AI is genuinely useful. So leaders got to lean in. Fast without thoughtful is not leadership. And really just stay focused on intentional goals and values aligned adoption. And that is where they will be most competitive.
I truly appreciate you sharing that piece because sometimes we are always looking for a solution, but we also tend to miss where we could be an obstacle. And that was a very well put. So thank you for that. Now, we earlier we spoke about these attributes that would make a leader just happy to not only integrate AI but become a good resource for their team. So how can leaders balance technology innovation with human connection and emotional intelligence, as we had mentioned it before?
Enrique, this is one of the most important leadership questions of the AI era, full stop. Because if we lose human connection in the pursuit of innovation, we are risking losing trust and engagement. And ultimately, that means a decrease in performance, which is not what any of us are shooting for. The short answer truly is that innovation and human connection are not in conflict if we lead with intention. So technology should serve people and not replace connection or empathy or leadership presence. And leaders can do this with transparency. It's any innovation, even the best innovation, can create uncertainty and fear. And I'm going to reflect back to something I said earlier, which is that open communication, leaders being really willing to be transparent and authentic and say, here's why we're using this technology. And I'm going to argue if they can't say why, they're not ready to move on it. Leaders can share, how does it align with our values and purpose? Because again, you want to encourage that buy-in. You want your teams and staff to be excited and fully engaged in what you're doing in order for it to be mindful. So you got to be clear, how does it align with our values and purpose? And that will counter any sense of, oh, we're just chasing the shiny. And finally, be open and honest about how you think this AI tool will or won't change how we work. Fear grows when you don't shine a light on it. So if you, as leaders, we call attention to the things that we know people are going to be thinking about and have that open conversation, we can help quiet those fears. We can help open up those conversations. And I think the most critical thing we need in order to do that, of course, is emotional intelligence, as you mentioned. It matters so deeply here. Leaders are going to go through a lot of the fear and apprehension themselves, and I don't want to overlook that they're also going through the challenges of change. But leaders have a responsibility to tune in to team concerns, to be watchful of morale. Is morale sinking or is morale rising? Being present and engaged. It's really easy, I think, when leaders get overwhelmed to sort of retreat into your office, whether brick and mortar or virtual, and be a little less available to people. And as automation increases, as we use tools like AI more and more, I argue that leadership becomes even more valuable, having that presence, one-on-one conversations, coaching, feedback, and perhaps most importantly to me, recognition and celebration. So get your teams in the sandbox, be learning together, be experimenting together. People are proposing ideas that maybe will impact them directly. Recognize that, celebrate that, really want to encourage folks to stay engaged in the conversation. Another thing that I'll say, and again, I'm reflecting back to some of our earlier conversation, we have to focus on fostering that learning culture. And what I think is different about the land of AI, the era of AI, is that our learning culture has to honor both technical and human strengths. So AI literacy and emotional intelligence. These should be developed side by side. Teams feeling empowered to grow both their skills for innovation and their skills for human leadership. And that doesn't mean they're destined for a management role. It doesn't mean that's what they want. But we know leadership happens without a leadership title. Leadership happens throughout an organization. And those skills are invaluable, especially in the era of AI. And finally, I will say throughout all of this, leaders have an opportunity to model values-driven leadership. Again, empathy, compassion, authenticity, we talked about that, core expectations, and remembering that AI does not deliver trust, it does not deliver purpose, and it does not deliver belonging. That's where the leaders come in. That's where the humans are invaluable. So the best leadership of the AI era is going to marry curiosity and what technology can do with the deep care for the people that we are responsible for. Innovation is exciting. I'm a tech nerd. I've always loved technology. I thought I was going to be a writing professor, and then I started my career in high tech, and I fell madly in love. So I love innovation, but human connection is enduring. And so the leader has to hold both. So yeah, it's just AI is going to replace a lot of transactional interactions, and the real value of human leadership, presence, empathy, and trust, it's simply going to continue to be more and more critical.
I completely agree and echo all of that you just said. But folks, if you're in a leadership position and you think that you will go into this AI initiative and kind of put away some of the tangibles, right? The things that make us human, that gets us truly connected with our people, you're going to go down a slippery slope. And then maybe you might get replaced, but it won't be because of AI. It'll
Nope.
be because you stop doing true core leadership things, right? And so
Yes.
thank you so much for all that you've shared. And I know that we're celebrating the launch of your own business and all of that. So tell us, what do you have coming up, and where can the viewer or the listener follow you and support you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I am very active on LinkedIn. Love to see new followers. Love to have folks coming to engage with my content, asking questions. So love to have visitors come to my LinkedIn space. SeaBlue Strategies does have a website, which of course www.seabluestrategies.com, and I love to see folks there as well. And I'm excited this fall. I will be speaking at an AI conference in Salt Lake City about this very topic of leadership in a time of AI. And I'm so very looking forward to that. And that's sponsored by the She Leads AI Society. And that's in October. So, really, really excited about that.
I'm equally excited. And folks, we'll have all those links and information as part of this video and show notes for you to support Pamela and what she's doing. Go connect with her on LinkedIn, follow her pages. And if you are in the area over where she will be speaking at, hey, visit her and tell her you saw her on the show and that you wanted to support her there. Thank you so much, Pamela, for all the time and the knowledge that you've shared during this episode. Folks, today's episode is sponsored by the Global Trends Magazine, the Outlier Project, Fantail Services, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, Ascend Meditations, and Chop AI. If you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know by leaving a comment. And tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.